I 23 female stopped relying on my husband 25 male, and I think it's making things worse. Advice? I'm sure you all have heard similar stories. My husband, despite multiple discussions over the past 2 years, never takes initiative in chores or anything in our lives. I'm constantly the one reminding him and asking him to do things, and when I don't, it doesn't get done. He told me he started hating me because of it about 6 months ago, so we both had an agreement that I will stop telling him what to do as long as he starts following up with his promises. I followed up on my end of the promise and he didn't within a few days. We agreed that since I wake up first to work out then make breakfast, he wakes up with our kid and takes her to daycare before work. After work, I pick up our kid and make dinner and manage the bedtime routine, and he cleans the kitchen while I do that. Every single day I walk out after bedtime to the kitchen not being touched. It's so disappointing and hurtful. Usually I get upset at him and tell him that I really want the kitchen cleaned every day, and he just brushes me off saying he will do it in the morning. 25% of the time he does. But since we had the agreement, I stopped. I just pretended to ignore the mess and would get ready for bed because by then I would have to get up in 7 hours. I let him be responsible for the mess because that's what we agreed on. 2 months later, and our kitchen was always a mess. Constantly, we would have molded food on the stove next to the sink, crumbs everywhere on the floor. So I gave up and started cleaning whenever I had time. I learned to cook and clean at the same time. Stressful with a child, but I learned. Most of the time, there were a week's worth of dishes and we have no dishwasher, so it took me a long time to catch up on washing the dishes. After bedtime, usually I'd be the only one cleaning. He would be laying in bed even though I wake up 2 hours before he does. He would literally yell at me about how I let the dishes get so stinky whenever he did wash the dishes, even though he agreed that he's responsible for cleaning after dinner. So I stopped relying on him and just started taking care of everything on my own. It's been 2 months of that mindset, and I find it harder to respect him now. He seems like a child to me, always complaining about everything and never puts effort, always too tired and grumpy. Today I was very excited because my husband brought up the idea of a movie night date. He never brings up date ideas or plans them, so it made me so hopeful. He said he would rent a movie, and after bedtime, we would watch it. I made a fancier dinner and put our kid down. Kid took a little longer to go down, but I was fine with it because I figured he would clean today so we can have a movie night. I was wrong. He didn't even bother to close the lids on the pans on the stove. He just turned off the lights in the kitchen. It felt like my heart broke, and I cleaned the kitchen myself again. He walked out, didn't say a word, and watched YouTube videos at the counter. Once I was done cleaning, we went to the bedroom and he just laid down and went to sleep. It hurt so much. I was so hopeful this time. He gets mad at me that I don't treat him like a man, but he never shows me he's reliable. I'm always hurt by his actions. Anyway, any advice on what I should do? Now for some comments. He got what he wanted. He didn't want chores. You're doing them now for him. OP is working, raising the kids and taking care of the home while he has no problem adding to her workload and showing no appreciation. This is the off-ramp to divorce town. It is way easier to be a divorced single mom than a married one. One big baby less to take care of makes so much difference. Yep. And this is the biggest reason for walk-away wife syndrome, which is a fancy way of saying, or misogynistic, he didn't freaking listen. She'll walk away, take the kid, have full custody, and he'll be all surprised panda-like. But why? As if he didn't dig the damn hole and put himself in it before she covered him with dirt. Update. First of all, I did not expect the post to blow up. Thank you to everyone who gave their advice. I tried to read every reply. I have been asked a lot for an update, so I'll just give what's happening now. I didn't leave him. Yet, at least. After that post, I had a surge of confidence, and really was planning on leaving him. Suddenly, though, he woke up one morning and it was like he was a different man. I'm not exaggerating. He was drastically different. He made breakfast for me while I was working out. He helped with making lunch and kept kissing me and sent me off to work with an "I love you." I thought for sure it would stop by the time he got home later, but it didn't. He went from a man who was angry every morning and angry when he came home from work to a sweet and loving man overnight. It was weird at first, but after a full week of being shown affection to, all my plans for leaving crumbled, and I was lost. He started working overtime, and I started working part-time, so the issues of house chore divide ceased. Plus, he cleaned the kitchen now while I put the child down, which was the main issue. It's been 3 weeks, and I feel like I'm living in a dream, and I have no idea what to do. I still haven't told him that I plan to leave him. I don't know if I will or not. I can't help but feel suspicious, like there's some hidden motive to this. He even planned a date night and showed me affection after. He never does that. I keep expecting for his usual aggression to pop out of nowhere. Sometimes he still looks at me with those scary eyes, but he doesn't talk or do anything aggressive anymore. I feel unsettled by all this in a way. My mental health has been spiraling too. I just feel so lost. Today he was upset because I slept in, and it's making me feel so anxious for some reason. He wasn't aggressive or yelling, but I'm scared to piss him off and he will go back to how he was. So that's where I'm at right now. Thank you to everyone who took the time to help me, and I'm sorry if this update wasn't what you hoped for. Now for some comments. You never had a conversation about things in recent times when you made your original post. Maybe he snooped through your PC or phone and came across it and had a wake-up call. Right? The abrupt 180 in behavior, for no apparent reason, is creepy as hell, especially considering the bit about his scary eyes. Stay vigilant, OPETA. Apparently, this worthless mother effer has said things in the past like he wanted to get a punching bag because he was tempted to punch OP. What the F? Or he cheated and is feeling bad. I've heard of this happening before, and the man cheated. This behavior is how I figured out my ex was cheating for 2 years, starting only months after we got together. I realized he kept going through a guilt-shame cycle shortly in and confronted him, but of course he told me I was crazy. It would stop for a while and then start again, and finally I did something I had never done before in my life and snooped through his laptop. Turns out when he was at his worst behavior-wise was during his dry spells. I kind of suspected that when I started snooping, though. The way he talked to women online disgusted me more than his cheating, so much more. I've been in the online dating world off and on since OkCupid wouldn't allow divorced people to join, and the first question asked in the chat room was age, sex, location. My ex's behavior was an 8 out of 10 on the gross behavior scale. Though I'm happy to report that 9 times out of 10 that behavior doesn't work. I'm guessing the other 10% are people who have been lonely a little bit too long, who see the dick pic and think, hey, even if he's terrible, I can make it work for me. And then stick around for a little while because he's actually amazing in bed. But cheaters aren't worth the hassle. I met him through a mutual friend that I have known for 23 years. That friend's assessment of him now is that he's a great guy, but a terrible man. I kind of wish he had found me through online dating first, and then I would have avoided him. Next story. My 39 male wife. 34 female asked me to leave an event without her, and I feel pretty bummed. How do I address it? Edit. First, I just want to thank everyone for the time and effort that has clearly gone into some very thoughtful and thought-provoking posts. I really do appreciate it, and sorry if I haven't thanked you personally. There are a lot of you. Couple of things to clarify. I left in part because the event was winding down. I could have made a point of staying, but there were very few people left. The chores or sex thing. First, when I mention chores, I mean I'm doing everything. Cooking, including getting up early on weekends to bake, cleaning, laundry, ironing, dishes, grocery shopping, everything. I've wanted to make sure she doesn't have to lift a finger, just focus on getting through the day and relaxing in the evening. In the past, when I've mentioned this, her reply has typically been on the lines of, I didn't ask you to do any of that. And to be clear, I neither expect nor want pity, heart, gratitude, sex. I just want to be wanted. And I know that things like a messy home are barriers for a lot of women's libidos. Reflecting on it, there are clearly a few things going on here, and this incident feels a bit like the straw that broke the camel's back. That's not to sound dramatic, but it's part of the reason I didn't want to talk last night. I was worried it'd all come flooding out, and that's not fair to her. It's important that she took the time to celebrate and revel in her brilliant performance. It's clear that a lot of this is about me, not her. I need to work on myself before I try and tackle this with her. Counseling might help one day, but I'm going to read No More Mr. Nice Guy and some other book recommendations first. She came home around 1 a.m. I slept in a spare room, so I didn't wake her this morning when I had to get up, but I heard her come in. She opened the card, but hasn't messaged me or left me a note to say anything. I am convinced she's not cheating. That's not a concern of mine at all. Thanks again, everyone. Really appreciate it. OP, redirected here from another sub. Would really welcome thoughts on this. My wife has had it rough with work over the past few weeks. I've done my absolute level best to support her. Cooked, cleaned, done the laundry, you name it. I even helped her write her speech for this event she was presenting at. Fast forward to today. The event goes really well, and her speech is a hit. Significantly more than her, let's be clear. Naturally, I congratulated her in the networking segment after the speeches and told her how proud I was of her. Then I let her go about her business, while I went about mine. It's her glory to revel in, and I've got my own professional objectives. The event winds down, so I walk over to her, give her a big hug. She tells me, and this is pretty much verbatim, "You can go now. I'm hanging with the girls." So I gave her a hug, said of course, got my coat, and left. I've since had loads of missed calls and texts from her. Texts just say, "Hello, mister," or "Hello." I sent back, "You don't need a ball and chain tonight. Go have fun. You deserve it." But I didn't want to talk to her. I'm really gutted. I get that she wants to spend time with her colleagues. They've been in the wars together. But I'm going away for a week tomorrow. We've barely spent any time together for the past few weeks. We haven't had sex this month, even on my birthday, and I'm just a bit... I don't know. I don't feel valued, loved, respected, or appreciated. I feel like I deserve a bit better than to be dismissed like that. I don't think she was joking. Her friends sort of cheered when she told me, so I guess they agreed they'd go out, and that was her moment to tell me. I also had my own professional objectives at the event. I wasn't primarily there to support her, that was a side benefit. And we had no plans for this evening. I just hoped she might want to spend some time with me before I go away. How do I address my feelings with my wife? She's often annoyed with me for not being more resilient or being too emotional, and I don't want to fight about this. But I often struggle to express my emotions without showing them. Please help. Now for some comments. If you are unable to have an open and honest conversation with her about how you are feeling, you do have a problem, regardless of how much you adore her. If you perceived her comments as a dismissal, then you need to call her out on it and talk it out. You should never dismiss your spouse unless it is a joke, and your spouse is cool with said joke. Clearly, not the case here. It sounds to me like you are feeling neglected overall, and to not address that is doing a disservice to yourself and to your marriage. Best of luck, OP! That was not at all polite of her. I'd be angry if that happened to me. Had she nicely asked if you would mind if she stayed behind to have time with the girls, that would be a different thing, although still not very mannerly or considerate. It sounds like she did this in front of the others. That's very rude and a bit manipulative. I used to ask my BF, "Do you know what makes us the superior species?" He'd guess, "Opposable digits." Nope. It's the advanced ability to communicate. We have the language and the ability, both physical and intellectual, to use our words to communicate with precision and thus solve our issues. He got the hint. But he still sucked as a communicator, so we eventually broke up. I'm sorry. Your feelings are absolutely valid. It could also be that what happened at the event felt more hurtful to you than normal, because you've already been feeling neglected and taken for granted long before the event began. The situation seems to be that you are somewhat out of sync with each other and each other's needs, and I wonder, based on your suffering in silence martyr coping mechanism, how long this has been going on. Has your relationship been mostly a one-way street with you, predominantly the giver and her the taker, or has it always been a two-way street until now? I worry that you can't easily communicate your wants and needs with her because she isn't supportive when you do. But suffering in silence will not help fix the issues. So if you want to improve your relationship and get what you need, you have to effectively communicate, and you need a partner who cares and can reciprocate. Have you thought about starting by finding a therapist who can help you communicate more effectively?